Which conspiracy theory is so believable that it might be true? Cops go on wars and leave random police sightings to cause people to slow without actually having to stay and check on people. The Reddit search function is intentionally bad, or not purposely bad, but they know how to fix it but refuse to encourage more new posts. PETA is controlled opposition run by the meat industry designed to make animal rights activists look bad. The reason Disney came out with a movie called Frozen was so that when you Google Disney Frozen you would get information about the movie and not websites talking about Walt Disney's body being frozen. Apple started the meme about AirPods being expensive as a marketing ploy. That the government made this post to see if we were onto them. Michael Jordan's first retirement was actually a suspension by the NBA because of his gambling. DB Cooper, the gentleman that disappeared with $200K after jumping out of a Boeing 727 that he had hijacked, took the money and created www.imdb.com. Trader Joe's makes their parking lots small on purpose to make them seem more popular than they really are. So Kyle Kinane. Lotteries are actually traps for time travelers. Rob Gronkowski didn't actually injure his groin after scoring his 69th career touchdown. He just thought it would be funny appropriate. The real reason Apple removed the headphone jack was to try to remove Square Pay systems as a competitor for Apple Pay. Edit. First gold comment. Thanks guys. One of my favorites is that the government was behind Throwback Thursday in order to get us to digitize and upload pictures that they would not have had access to in order to improve age progression facial recognition algorithms. Multiple football World Cups have been influenced either by governments hosting them or other entities out for their own gain. 2002 South Korea, Japan, and 1978 in Argentina are the two most obvious ones that come to mind. YouTube in a mobile browser is so itty so they can force you to use the app and not use an ad blocker. Here's an actual list of proven conspiracies. Mattress firms aren't only holding mattresses, buddy. Jeffrey Epstein is a Florida billionaire who probably is running an underage sex trafficking ring. Edit. Well, Epstein just got arrested for sex trafficking minors, so this is more a conspiracy fact, not a theory lol. A brief background. In 2007 dozens of underage women came forward saying Epstein was having sex with them in Florida. They also claimed that he passed the girls along to other elites and ran a sex-ring blackmailing service kinda. Trump, Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey and Prince Andrew are all known associates of Epstein and would go on his plane dubbed Lolita Express to a private island in the Caribbean. What happened next was ridiculous. Epstein hired the best legal team ever, like as good as OJ's. Dershowitz was involved in all that. Acosta was the prosecutor against Epstein and he is now appointed by Trump in his cabinet. Acosta gave Epstein the plea deal of his life. He was found guilty of one charge of sex with a minor, in spite of being accused by dozens of girls, and had to register as a sex offender. He got 13 months in jail but he only served 10. Here is the kicker. He could leave jail 6 times a week to go work at his at-home office. He was supposed to go to prison, but stayed in a local jail for some reason. He was granted immunity. All co-conspirators in the case were given immunity. This means that if further evidence comes out against other people with the case, they can't be prosecuted again. His house butler was found guilty of obstruction of justice regarding the evidence against Epstein. He got more jail time, years, than Epstein. The police commissioner on the case stepped down because he thought it was rigged. Miami Herald said it was the deal of a lifetime. Epstein is now free and still has billions of dollars. Acosta has told friends that he was scared to go against the powers that be because they would squash his career. This all happened in 2008, I think. The Dodge just reopened a case last month due to duckery going on. Clinton and Trump, among other famous people like Kevin Spacey, have been documented flying on Epstein's plane to his infamous Lolita Express. A Miami judge just ruled last week literally that Epstein's case was illegal and violated law because Acosta did not consult the victims before bringing a plea deal. That the CIA post this question every time so they know what the general public suspect. Credits to you Breeze Mac for this outstanding post on the Titanic Olympic conspiracy. Breeze Mac post in other conspiracy thread. The Titanic Olympic conspiracy. It has credibility because there is photographic evidence. It's really one of the only conspiracy theories I put much belief in. The sister ships, and their third counterpart, the Britannic, were owned by White Star Line. The Olympic was put into service in June 1911. She collided with another ship, the HMS Hawke, in September of 1911 and both ships were badly damaged. The accident was a financial disaster for White Star Line, as they were found to be liable for the accident and had to pay for the damages to both ships and legal fees for court cases associated with the accident. Repairs on the Olympic took nearly 2 months and parts intended for the Titanic, which was still being built during this time, had to be given to the Olympic instead. Only a few weeks after being returned to service, the Olympic suffered another minor incident where one of the propellers broke off and pieces intended for the Titanic were once again cannibalized. At this point, the Olympic was looking like more and more of a money drain for the White Star Line, though its achievement in not actually sinking despite a major accident that should have sunk it cemented the Olympic class liner's reputation as unsinkable. But I'll get back to that in a moment. The Titanic was finally finished and ready to leave port on her maiden voyage on the 10th of April, 1912, having been delayed while new parts were made and delivered to replace the ones needed for the Olympic. And from there we all know the story. She went first to France, and then to Ireland, and then began her trek across the Atlantic to New York, during which she struck an iceberg and after nearly 2 hours, sank, taking 1,500 souls with her to a cold, watery grave that would not be seen again by human eyes for nearly 100 years. The Olympic went on to have a 24-year career as a successful ocean liner. She served during World War I where she earned the nickname Old Reliable for her impenetrable hull. And then in 1919 she was re-outfitted to be a civilian passenger ship and served as an ocean liner until 1935, when she was retired from the fleet. Her ownership changed hands several times and she was eventually dismantled and sold for scrap metal. But what if it wasn't the Titanic that sank? What if it was actually the Olympic? What if it was a ploy to remove a faulty ship that was costing them more money than she was bringing in for White Star Line and cash in on her £1 million insurance policy? So here is the conspiracy theory. At some point after the Titanic was completed, they switched the identities of the ships. The new Titanic was actually the Olympic and the Olympic was actually the brand spanking new Titanic. Fresh from the construction yard with zero problems and zero history, they intended for the Titanic to suffer some sort of failure that would result in the destruction of the problem ship so they could collect the insurance money. Doubt they intended to also cause the deaths of 1,500 people. The events that transpired which led to the sinking of the Titanic possibly happened purely by chance and the iceberg wasn't part of their plan. That is, they didn't hire the captain to specifically ram the iceberg to sink the ship or anything like that. They probably had another plan involving the repairs that had already been made on the ship when it collided with the HMS Hawke. In any case, it wasn't really the Titanic that left port on the 10th of April, 1912. It was the Olympic. After the sinking of the Titanic, White Star Line received a tidy sum of $1 million in insurance money, or $89,289,575 in today's money. This, of course, ruined the insurer, Lloyd's of London. There's an additional conspiracy theory that American financier and banker J. P. Morgan was in on this whole scheme. His company, J. P. Morgan and Company, financed the International Mercantile Marine Company in the hopes of becoming rich off of sea travel. But this turned out to be a bad investment because of the unpredictable nature of sea travel and travelers themselves. J. P. Morgan or one of his associates may have schemed with White Star Line, who was a subsidiary of this IMMC, in order to bankrupt the IMMC and allow J. P. Morgan and Company to withdraw from the IMMC without breaking a contract. I cannot provide evidence for this beyond speculation. However, I can provide evidence that backs up my claim that the two ships were switched and it was the Olympic who sank, not the Titanic. This is an image of the RMS Olympic in Driddock. I am currently unable to locate a picture of the Olympic while under construction with the name clear so you can be sure it definitely is the Olympic. I can only assume such a photo doesn't exist. Check out the very top row of portholes and the white railing. Count them. Look closely at the grouping of the last 5 portholes and how they are clustered with 2 close together, 1 set apart, and 2 more close together. This is an image of the RMS Titanic being built. Look at the topmost portholes and the railing on the Titanic. Count them too. Look at the last 5 portholes and see that they are evenly spaced apart. This is a picture of the Titanic before leaving on its maiden voyage. Check out the portholes in question. Here is the Olympic in New York after the sinking of the Titanic. There is no reason why the shipbuilders would have changed the portholes on the Titanic when they were nearly done building it. That piece was not one of the pieces cannibalized from the Titanic to repair the Olympic that would have needed to be replaced by a different piece. The only answer is that the ship in the final picture, which is the ship that left port on the 10th of April, 1912, and was met with a terrible fate near Newfoundland, was not the Titanic, but actually the Olympic. You can find pictures from newspapers further supporting this, as they clearly show the name of the ship and the wrong number orientation of portholes. I doubt we'll ever know one way or another, since the wreck at the bottom of the Atlantic is quickly being covered with sediment and will be completely buried and inaccessible soon, and pieces of the ship that was retired in 1935 and dismantled in 1937 are both difficult to find and difficult to authenticate, and anybody who might be able to either confirm or deny this theory are all dead. The president of the Philippines, Duterte, is very anti-drugs to hide his own involvements with drug cartels off which he makes billions. The government experiments on the mentally insane because no one will believe someone with that kind of medical history. The editor behind Paul Blart, Mall Cop 2 worked to make the film sync up perfectly with Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. Edit. Audio is from Till Death Do Us Blart. From the McElroy brothers. Check out all of their projects at Themselroy Family. The oil and coal industries invested heavily in killing off nuclear power as an attractive alternative. These days we have reactor designs many times safer than other methods of generating power, and the waste issue is something that could be fixed with sufficient investment. Bob Vance was just trying to plug his business to the cameras every time he introduced himself. Long John Silver's is some kind of money laundering scheme on the basis that they have been open for as long as I can remember, but I have also literally never seen a busy Long John's. Toxic delusion that I ironically entertain, perhaps? I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory at this point, but a lot of people still don't acknowledge that your internet searches and social media profiles are absolutely being used as training models by major IT companies. I was a drunk college student and had access to them to run our e-training. If you still think you're off the grid, you're an idiot. Being frank, it's not a big deal if you don't have darknet to hide. Those people are too busy building the new technological world to give a rip that you look at midget porn. But don't delude yourself to think people don't have access to anything you do on the internet. Some organization group of people wanted all the Kennedys dead for some reason. Edit. The term conspiracy theory and its poor connotation was created by the US government specifically for skeptics of the official JFK assassination story. Just felt I should put that out there. The Laurel Canyon conspiracy. Basically, if you look at the counterculture revolutionaries in the music industry in the 60s, most of them were the children of military intelligence people. So the theory is that the free love, lots of drugs movement they inspired was done intentionally to distract the youth from a full-scale revolution. The thought was if the angry youth of the mid to late 60s were too high and getting laid all the time, they would stop caring as much about societal ills and then basically sleepwalk through the 70s. Which they did. I stumbled upon this when I was reading up on Jim Morrison and how his father was the one who called in the fake strike at the Gulf of Tonkin that kicked off the Vietnam War, and which was shown later to have been a false flag. Turns out, a lot of his contemporaries were also children of highly placed military people with ties to intelligence. Strange that they all wound up in Laurel Canyon as part of the same movement. The CIA was involved in selling crack to low-income black neighborhoods to fund activities they couldn't get approved by Congress. I mean, I'm pretty sure most people believe there was some involvement and it's just a matter of degree. But I think they were nuts deep in directly smuggling and selling crack through intermediaries to black communities with full knowledge of the Justice Department and executive branch. Edit dudes, I just want to clarify the fact that the CIA was involved in some degree of drug smuggling is generally considered a well-attested fact. The degree to which they were involved in the proliferation of crack, the motivations behind this and the degree to which the president knew of and condoned or even ordered all of this is a little more debatable. Amelia Earhart was taken prisoner by the Japanese. Sometimes I really believe the rumor that Avril Lavigne died in 2003 and was replaced by her double. Other times I think it's complete BS. Depends on the day. Edited because she died in 2003, not 2001. Vaccines are flat, and the earth causes autism. Edit. I forgot to say. 7/11 was an outside job. Edit 2. 7/11 was not a part-time job. Sheeple, that's what they want you to think. The idea that genetic services like 23andMe may be selling records to the government and or insurance companies. There have been cases of criminals being caught with genetic information like this. Citation needed. So it's not much of a stretch that other agencies could acquire it as well. That research of thorium as a safer nuclear power source was suppressed in favor of uranium research due to uranium's ability to be weaponized. Edit. On my lunch break and see that this kinda blew up. A lot of good information in the comments. I'm not a physicist or an engineer. My field is environmental studies, so safer, cleaner energy is important to me. That being said, I obviously have not researched this topic enough. It just seems to pop up in conspiracy topics often. See YouTube. Looks like a good discussion. I'll have to read through it all after work. The value of expensive art is just as a pseudo-currency for rich people to subtly buy drugs or other illicit things. Women's pants pockets are significantly smaller than men's pants pockets to encourage us to buy handbags and purses. The government spreads insane conspiracy theories that conspiracy nutters will latch onto to distract from actual conspiracies. Like flooding the conspiracy market to devalue conspiracies. Edit. Dear Allah. I get it. Michael Scott. The Office. Stanley. Gossip episode. Do you guys ever check to see if anyone else made that comment? I have a few I love. 1. Kobayashi, the competitive eater, is really a fantastic up-close sleight of hand artist. 2. Weather forecasters buy stock in supermarket chains and then over-exaggerate winter storms. 3. Weather control. Shh. There is a pedophile ring in Hollywood government. Memes about the NSA and other spy programs are encouraged by the very agencies spying on us to twist the idea into the absurd and to humanize their agents. There's an underground PR firm that helps celebrities fake their own death to escape the harshness of the limelight or if they feel like their life is in danger. That is Tupac, Biggie, Paul Walker, etc. I don't have time to type it all out right now, but the entire situation surrounding the construction and operation of the Denver International Airport is strange, even by non-conspiracist standards. Have fun in the rabbit hole. Bigfoot is blurry in real life as is. It was never the camera at fault. Miley Cyrus's crazy streak was all a carefully planned marketing scheme to get her solidified as an A-list celebrity. 2 conspiracy theorists walk into a bar. You can't tell me that was just coincidence, man. Dyson purposefully made the cable shorter over time just before announcing the cordless version. My DC01 has a 12 meter flex. My DC14 has a 6.5 meters flex. They purposefully made the flex shorter to be an inconvenience and make people want the cordless version. The Phantom Cosmonaut conspiracy. Pretty much. The short story is that Yuri Gagarin is not the first man to go to space but the first one to go and come back alive. It just seems like a USSR thing to do. Lord is actually a middle-aged guy named Randy. I've always found it very plausible that Hitler didn't kill himself in the bunker, and instead fled to South America. Let's look at what we know about his death. With Germany on the brink of defeat and Russian forces closing in, Hitler shoots himself in a bunker hours before they arrive. German soldier then dragged the bodies of him, his wife, and his dog into the front yard and burned them beyond recognition. The bodies are positively ID'd by dental records provided by the Nazi Party. Given the fanatical devotion the Nazis has to Hitler, it is extremely possible that they would have been willing to shoot and burn body doubles, and alter the dental records of the corpses to match Hitler and his wife. Meanwhile, Hitler would have been evacuated to a country where he could lay low and take on a new identity. My guess would be Argentina, who fostered multiple high-ranking Nazi officials. I'm not saying he couldn't have also just shot himself in the bunker, but the whole thing always felt fishy. A massive electromagnetic storm or meteor hit the Earth about 12,000 years ago, melting the glacial ice sheets almost overnight and causing massive worldwide flooding. It would have caused a worldwide trauma in human thinking that could have rippled through generations of people in the form of strange traditions and religious beliefs. A lot of religious texts have accounts of mythical sounding flood, firestorm, or sky blackening events, and it would explain other things like a ton of the megafauna going extinct in North America, the discovery of civilization sites like Göbekli Tepe that are at least 10-12k years old. Also, some structures like the Sphinx in Egypt and other megalithic stone structures in the world may be far older than previously thought. Plato's account of Atlantis being wiped out and details that make it seem like the Richard structure might be a really good candidate for the location of an actual place. My favorite rabbit hole by far. Edit. For all those wondering, I'm mostly just referring to the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, or the theory put forward by Robert Shark detailing a possible solar maximum that created chaos electrical storms. Also look up videos from the geologist Randall Carlson. He has some great details about the ice core data and some satellite images of spots in the world that look like they have been marred by mega tsunamis in geologically recent history. John Anthony West has some pretty good info about Egyptians and rethinking what a lot of their records suggest. Graham Hancock has fun for speculation about the possible civilization pre-flood and why he thinks some monuments are way older than we currently guess. All of them have been interviewed on JRE podcast at least once and are excellent with any adult substance of choice in responsible amounts. As far as Atlantis goes, I know the commonly accepted theory is that Plato was talking about a fictional place. A couple of comments are saying he explicitly stated that in the book. I don't remember that part, but it has been a while, so I'll double check. But there are also older maps that show Atlantis in the NW part of Africa right below the Atlas Mountains. Near there is a natural formation called the Richard structure or the Eye of the Sahara. It looks pretty interesting in Google Earth. It is not too hard to imagine before a large climate shift catastrophe that its lower lying rings could have been filled with water and connected to a waterway that could easily access the ocean. Plato does have quite a fairly amount of detailed information that he said was passed down to him from Solon and was originally in an Egyptian temple documenting the history of Atlantis. The description matches word for word to the site with fairly eerie accuracy from what I can tell. For example, the three colors of the stones in the city. On the ground at the Richard there is rubble everywhere with those three exact colors. There are also specific distances in Plato's account when he talks about the layers of the city and its ring-like shape. They match really well with this natural structure. I'm not sold on the Atlantis part, but it is really fun. I also took out the phrase possible nuclear winter-like effects at the end of the first paragraph. Multiple people correctly pointed out that was inaccurate. I was trying to think of a quick well-known phrase to describe the particulates that would have spread around the world. I believe at some point Randall Carlson talks about a layer of these particulates in the geologic record suggesting an impact or other high energy event. Nanodiamonds, melt glass, and things that come from high pressures and heat. Don't know if I have those terms correct from memory. The recommended food pyramid is created by the FDA, but the FDA is funded by a lot of certain food industries. Poultry, dairy, etc. They in turn made the recommended nutrition based off of their funding by these companies, and not based on a well-balanced diet. That your phone's microphone is constantly hot and it's listening for keywords to target advertising. Most glaring instance where this happened to me was when I walked into a colleague's office. He had just gotten a standing desk, but one that goes on top of his existing desk rather than a standalone, pun, model. That's important to note. I said nice standing desk. When did you get that? Thanks. Just today, he replied. That was literally all that was said about the desk. We talked about work related stuff, and as I walked out and checked my phone, there was an ad on Facebook for that exact model of standing desk. I have never owned one, wanted one, or googled one before, yet there it was on my feed. Tinfoil hat be damned, they listen in. There's a conspiracy theory that Flight 93 was shot down by hastily scrambled jet fighters and or missiles in the interest of public safety, and that the government made up the relatively wholesome "the passengers decided to fight the hijackers and sacrifice themselves" story to keep up morale. I don't know whether it happened or not, but I can entirely believe it might be true. That Russians are behind the anti-vax movement as a way to thin the herd immunity for the next generation of Americans. Nuclear war is old news. The next big threat will be biological. The Vatican holds horrible dark secrets and many answers to existential questions, and that Area 51 is a publicity stunt by the government to hide the real testing facility. All social media platforms are a direct result of Patriot Act and are used to keep tabs on everyone, hence the billions of users, with algorithms to keep you addicted to the constant information and the dopamine-inducing likes. That Snowpiercer is the sequel to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Israel is run by the Jews. The ballistic missile threat that was sent to Hawaiian cell phones saying, "Seek shelter, this is not a drill," that was later deemed a mistake, was a real missile that was intercepted before impact. The FBI is using Amazon's Alexa to spy on people. Full credits to you, the next village, for this one. The arms on Tyrannosaurus Rex skeletons are backwards. They ought to be rotated 180 degrees. What good are these stubby little arms for? We have found out relatively recently that T-Rex have feathers. It is now an established fact. T-Rex were not covered in scales but in feathers. Like a bird. Take the arms on a T-Rex and flip them around 180 degrees. Now you have wings like ostrich. Here is an illustration of an ostrich skeleton. See the small arms? Wings. Colon. Now look at a Tyrannosaurus. Colon. We used to think of almost all dinosaurs as lizard-like. In fact, the name means terrible lizard. Now we know that many different animals that we think of as dinosaurs are more bird-like than lizard-like. XKCD comic below illustrates this nicely. Tyrannosaurus Rex had wings. Not big wings to fly with, but wings that were perhaps something like that of an ostrich, cassowary, or emu. Although likely much smaller in proportion to their body, ostriches use their wings in mating rituals, to make themselves appear larger, and to signal and communicate. Perhaps T-Rex used theirs for some similar purpose. They did not have useless stubby little arms.